Hello, everybody. This is Danny Brown. Welcome to Globalization and Culture 1 class. This is the second day of class. Today, I'm going to be teaching about something that's very important, especially for the topic of globalization, and that is the topic of prejudice and stereotypes. Now, prejudice is everywhere, and it is very ugly. Prejudice is when you talk about one group of people in a certain way. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm excited. Let's get going. Let's talk about what prejudice and stereotypes are and how we can prevent them and have a successful globalization. Okay, prejudice and stereotypes. Prejudice. Henkin. Now, the word pre means before, and judice means judge, prejudge. And so prejudice means that you judge a person before you meet him or her, before you know him, because he is part of a group. Oh, you're an American. You must be like this. You have these characteristics because you're American. Oh, you're an African, so you're a good person, but you're a European. You're a bad person. Okay, so prejudice is to prejudge. For example, some people do not like Americans. There are 328,600,000 Americans. So you cannot know all Americans. But based on your limited experience, you decide that Americans are not good people. That is prejudice. It is ugly, and it makes a big problem for globalization, for people traveling around the world, for people living in communities where there are people from different cultures, from different nations. It causes problems. Now, stereotype is a type of prejudice. Stereotype is when you have an image of what one group of people are like. You think all people of one group have those characteristics. Here's a stereotype, okay? Here's a stereotype of an American. Let's see, this is stereotype of Americans. Yeah, those Americans, they all eat hamburgers. They have too many guns. They got them cowboy hats and the tattoos all over their arms, and they just talk about America all day. Okay, is that true about all Americans? No. In fact, we will study in my Semonzemi class that about 1/3 of Americans have guns. That's a lot. 2/3 of Americans don't have guns. I myself, I've never had a gun. I've shot guns before in high school, but I do not want a gun. No way. So don't get a stereotype that Americans have guns, because most of us do not. Here's another stereotype. This one's a little bit more negative. Americans are fat. They're fat because they eat too much and they drink a lot of soft drinks. Well, it's true that a lot of Americans are fat. Do you know what percent of Americans are fat? Adults, 2/3 of American adults are overweight. 1/3 are thin or healthy, 2/3 are overweight, and half of those overweight are extremely overweight. So that means 1/3 of all Americans are extremely overweight. But not all Americans are overweight. I have a beautiful wife. She's not overweight. All right, stereotype. Example of a negative stereotype. Those Africans, they're not educated people. I met some Africans. I've never known an African who had a good education. Just don't trust them. Okay, that's not fair. You see, someone who believes that Africans are not educated people, they'll say, I won't hire any Africans for my country because they're not educated. Now you're hurting the African people who are educated. There are educated Africans, and you don't need to hurt them because of some stereotype which is false. It very deeply hurts people to stereotype them. Here's another stereotype. This is a real stereotype in America, and it's a big problem. Some people think that black men, now an African American, an American with very dark skin, we sometimes call them black, and it's not a bad word. I'm white, and people call me white, and people call them black. And so some people say, well, black men are bigger than white men. And many people have that feeling that it's true. But what does research say? American people think black men are larger and stronger than white men. Okay, they truly think that. But the truth is, the average white man is 177.3 centimeters. The average black man is 176.5 centimeters. That is almost 1 centimeter less than the average white man. So is the average black man very tall and large? No. But this idea becomes very strong in people's minds, and so this causes harm. Let's look here. Negative stereotypes can cause harm. American police often shoot black men. And in the reports that they write, in their police reports after they shoot them, they say, he was a very big man. Well, because of this stereotype, they're afraid and they shoot. And it's because of a stereotype that the black men are very large. That's a part. Maybe there are more reasons than that they shoot black men, but that's one of the reasons, because of this negative stereotype. Foreigners make trouble, but Japanese people do not. That's a very common stereotype. I would say that there are a lot of Japanese that believe this, because I've seen and talked to people and seen newspapers. Negative stereotypes can cause harm. Now, this is a true story. A foreigner that I know was working in a company, and the manager, a Japanese manager, said, someone in this company keeps throwing bottles into the trash. I know that a Japanese would never do it, so it's one of you foreigners. Okay, he had a stereotype that foreigners make trouble and Japanese people do not. It was not true. He found out later. Later, that manager learned that he was wrong. A Japanese worker was breaking many rules, so the manager apologized to the foreign workers and he fired the Japanese guy. I know that this is a true story because my son worked at that company and he was scolded by his boss because he was a foreigner, but later the boss apologized and said, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It was a stereotype that the manager had. All right, here's Japan today. Now, the police in Japan often talk about foreigners' crimes as if it were a very terrible problem in Japan, and it makes Japanese people feel, oh, the foreigners are dangerous. It's a lie. Let me explain. Look here, Vietnamese rank top for first time in number of crimes committed by expats in Japan. An expat is a foreigner from another country. Now, why do they put this here, that the Vietnamese have the most crimes of all foreigners? Why would they put something like that? In America, I have never seen anyone name all of the foreigners from different countries and say which one has the most crime. This is because the people who are writing this article, they don't trust foreigners, I believe, and they're showing and encouraging people to believe that Vietnamese are dangerous people. And it's not a fair thing to do. Vietnamese rank top. There are many such articles. This is from NHK, Vietnamese, the same idea about the Vietnamese. Vietnamese are not a problem in Japan. Can you see this? Okay. Now, what is the truth? The truth is, statistics research often show that foreigners in most countries do less crimes than the citizens of that country. Why? I'm not sure why. Perhaps the citizens have more contacts or more ability to commit crime. I'm not sure, but it is the citizens of a country that commit more crimes, not the foreigners. Now, in Japan, I've read statistics, I've read the numbers. If you, the foreigners, there are many foreigners who commit visa crimes. That is, they have a visa, their visa gets old, and then they get into trouble. But it's not a serious crime. If you take away visa problems, foreigners do less crimes on average than a Japanese person. That is a fact. Japanese people do more crime than foreigners in the country of Japan. Prejudice can have bad influences. School. The studies in school and education have found that some school teachers think white children are more intelligent, even if they're not. Okay? They show a picture of a black child, a Mexican American child, and a white child. And they say, now, which one do you think is more intelligent? And they'll pick the white child. Or they will simply show a child, just a child. Here's a white child. Just look at this child. Now I want you to rank the child 1 to 10. What rank do you think this child has? And they'll rank the white child a little bit high. Now they'll show a black child. Okay, I want you to rank this black child. How intelligent do you think this black child is? They'll rank the black child lower. And so they keep doing that. The white children have a higher average, the black children a lower average. And it shows that many teachers have a feeling, a stereotype, that black children are not as intelligent as white children. And that is not true. We saw that the President of the United States was a black man, quite intelligent person. In business, white interviewers, that's the managers who were interviewing, they sat farther away from black applicants. An applicant is the person who wants a job. And so the white people, they sat farther away from the black ones than they did from the white people during the interview. And the interviewer made more mistakes when he was speaking to the blacks. It's like he's nervous or something and he makes speaking mistakes. And the interviewer finished the interview 25% sooner with the blacks. They didn't talk as much with the blacks. It's clear they weren't comfortable with the blacks. Now, one reason that this is a problem in America is because in the past, there was a lot of prejudice. There's prejudice now, but it was open prejudice. This is outside many stores and restaurants in the 1960s. It says, "We serve whites only." So in the 60s, the early 60s, early mid 60s, white people were allowed to go anywhere, but black people could not go to many restaurants, many restrooms, bathrooms, they could not go in. Many businesses, they were not allowed to go in. And then that stopped. We stopped that. The government stopped it, and I'm very happy. Martin Luther King helped us a lot to get rid of that kind of open prejudice. But now there's a prejudice. It's not legal, but people are still prejudiced. It still hangs on it. It's very sad. But in Japan, it's the same. There's still prejudice in Japan. Some Japanese think, oh, that's terrible that America is so prejudiced. This is a real advertisement from a Japanese newspaper. It says, "Apartment for rent, no pets, no foreigners." Can you understand why that is upsetting for me, a foreigner. If I have lived in many homes. I've lived in Japan many years, 23 years in Kofu, Japan, and I have rented many houses and many real estate people who help rent buildings. Many of them have told my wife and I, well, there's not so many houses or apartments that I can show you because you're a foreigner, and many Japanese will not rent to a foreigner. That's shocking. That's just prejudice. Why? It's because they have a bad image in their mind. It's a stereotype. It's a prejudice against foreigners. Anyone who's not Japanese is not such a good person. So we will not rent to them. Now, we should avoid stereotypes and prejudice because each person is different. You cannot say all foreigners make trouble. You cannot say all foreigners commit crime or most foreigners commit crime. You have to give every person a fair chance to show that they can be a good person. Let every person act and don't prejudge, don't have prejudice. Common stereotypes that Americans hold. Now, these are things that people from my country sometimes think. Number one, white people cannot dance well and are not as cool as black people. Is that true? No, there are many whites that dance well. Number two, most whites are rich and look down on blacks and Mexicans. It's not true. I had a very good friend who was Mexican, very good friend of mine, and his wife was from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, they both spoke Spanish, very fine people. And I was never rich. Blacks are lazy and receive government money. Um, a lot of whites will say that. I was at a restaurant last year. I was sitting in a restaurant with a man, and he was an older man, and he was paying for my dinner, and he was nice to me, and he's a nice guy. I like him. But he started talking about the blacks in this country, the blacks in that city. They used to work really hard, but now the blacks in that city are just so lazy. They're not working anymore. They have unemployment because they're not willing to work. Well, I was angry and I told him, you should not talk about all blacks. We don't know how all blacks act. And I've had that kind of terrible prejudice talk because I'm a foreigner in a country and I don't like it when people talk about foreigners. And you should not talk about blacks like this. It's not true and it's not fair. And I'm not sure he changed his mind, but I told him my opinion. Okay. Um, some Americans think that most blacks can play basketball very well. They can also dance well, but many blacks don't play basketball at all. But the truth is, if you look at basketball teams in professional sports, a very large percentage of them are black. But that does not mean that all blacks love basketball. Jews are greedy and want money. That's Jewish people. It's a lie. Jews are not greedy. Everybody's greedy, but Jews are not more greedy than anybody. They're just people. Every Mexican lives with a large family in one house. Many family members do not have a job. Well, Mexican families tend to live and depend on each other. And if someone loses a job, they will sometimes live with another family member until they find another job. And they're not so worried about it. Some of them, they relax. Some of them want to get a job fast. Some of them want to relax. My brother married a woman from South America, Colombia, and her brother lost his job. So he came and lived with my brother and his wife. And he was there 1 week, doing nothing, not looking for a job, just eating their food and relaxing. He was there a second week. He was not looking for a job. He was just living with them free. And my brother got very angry and said, "Get a job or get out of my house." And the man left the house and didn't live with him anymore. Well, that was one man. But there are many South Americans who work very hard and they want a job. And we cannot say that because one person did this, that all Mexicans or all South Americans are that way. We have to protect ourselves. Don't become prejudiced. Don't let yourself become prejudiced because you see some people do something. All Muslims want a Muslim government. Oh, this is very common. The man I was telling you about, he was talking bad about black people. He was saying this very thing. He was saying the Muslims want control. They're just trying to control the government. And as soon as you get enough Muslims, they're going to take over the government. So don't let them have power. This is a lie. There are many Muslims. I've known Muslims. I've been friends with Muslims. And a lot of them are just nice people. They don't want to take over the government. Some Americans think that Asians are good at math and make high grades in school. In truth, on average, Asians make higher grades in school in America than whites or blacks. But it is not because they're just naturally good at math. Those who make good grades do it because their parents push them and they work very, very hard. And that's why they're good at math, because they just work hard. But not all Asians work hard. Some Asians in America don't work hard. Number 9, Asian parents are very strict and control their children carefully. Now, this is funny. Americans who come to teach in Japan, they think that Japanese parents are very strict with their children and control their children. And when the teachers come into the elementary schools of Japan, they're shocked because we Americans don't let our children do a lot of bad things. But in Japan, the children will run around, they'll scream, they'll cause problems. And the teacher says, I can't do anything. Boy, that doesn't happen in America. But not all Japanese children are bad children, just some of them. But Americans think that all Asians are very strict with their children, and it's not always true at all. Okay, so some people think that Americans are loud, pushy, and rude. Is it true? Some of them are. But if you have 10 Americans, maybe 2 of them will be loud, pushy, and rude. And everyone remembers the 2 who were loud and pushy and rude. And they forget that 8 others were very nice. And they create a stereotype. All Japanese people are honorable. They always follow the rules and they act politely. This comes from movies. In many movies, they show the Japanese being very honorable. Oh, yes, we must obey the rules. And they think all Japanese are that way. They come to Japan, and then they're shocked that Japanese are just normal people. They're not all honorable. Japanese children are quiet and very disciplined. Most Japanese are short people, and they usually wear glasses. That's an old stereotype that many Americans had of Japanese. Okay, here's a Japanese sailor in an American television show in the 1960s. This is a stereotype. A very funny show called Gilligan's Island. And there were not many Japanese at this time. And so they showed this stereotype. Many Americans think that all Chinese look the same. Many Americans think that Chinese are very clever. Many Americans think that most Chinese are brainwashed and follow their government blindly. Is it true? It might be for some, but not for all. Don't stereotype. Koreans are good at math and science. Is that always true? Korean women have beautiful faces and smooth skin. Well, that's very nice. And I think many Korean women do have beautiful faces and smooth skin. But I've seen many Korean women without smooth skin. Okay, number 19, Koreans eat kimchi every meal. Well, A lot of Koreans do, but not all. Irish people drink too much alcohol and they eat a lot of potatoes. Well, there are some Irish who drink a lot, but there's Irish who don't drink very much alcohol. Number 21, Germans are cold-hearted and don't make friends well. Um, if you if Americans live near Germans, they sometimes think this because Americans are quicker to make friends and smile and tell their name and act all happy, but really the Americans don't go very deep with the friendship. They're just happy when they first say, well, hi, how are you? And then no close friendships. And the Germans are like, and they don't talk much. And so the Americans think the Germans are not happy and don't make friends. Germans do make friends, but they make friends in a different way, and they make friends usually more slowly. French people wear nice clothes, are proud, and hate Americans. There are Americans who hate French. Why? Because they heard that French people hate Americans, and it made them mad, and so now they hate French. That's just a stereotype. Fat people are lazy. It is not true that fat people are lazy. There are a lot of hardworking fat people, very hardworking. They're fat for many reasons, but usually not because they're lazy. Women with short hair want to be men. I like long hair, okay? I tell my wife, please keep your hair long. I think it's beautiful. But if you have short hair, I don't think that you want to be a man, okay? We should not have stereotypes. Skinny people just don't eat enough. That's many people believe that, but I know two people who were very, very, very skinny as children, and many people laughed at them and told them, you just don't eat. And they said, if I could do anything to gain weight, I would. But no matter how much I eat, I still don't gain weight. So don't make decisions about people if you don't have experience with them. You just don't know. People with tattoos are wild and cannot be trusted. Is that true? I don't think so. 26. Women who are successful in business sleep with important men. That's a bad thing to say. Perhaps some women have done that, but there are a lot of hardworking women who have never done such a thing. So please don't ever say that. 27. Great shifts are all men. Some great chefs are men, but some great chefs are women. So don't say that. Hairstylists who are men are gay. Now, this is a common thing to say in America. Even this picture that I'm showing you of a gay person is a stereotype that they're going to wear certain type of clothes and act in a certain exaggerated way. Okay? Now, this is actually a real gay hairstylist, all right? This is what he looks like. We'll talk more about it later. Don't stereotype gay people. Now, I am a Christian, and the Bible says that you should not be homosexual or gay. That's the Bible's teaching. I believe that. I follow that. I think we should not be homosexual. But homosexual people can be very nice people. We don't want to say bad things about them. If you agree or disagree with homosexuality, you should be fair and not stereotype a homosexual. Do you see this? This comes because people attack homosexuals. They prejudice, they have stereotype, they say evil about them. And this man on the left here is the same man after he was attacked. Prejudice is evil. You can agree with someone, you can disagree, but you should be fair and honest about who they are. And we should be kind to everyone. 29, women who are successful in business sleep with, okay, I think we've already read that. Now, stereotypes can be based on partial truth. That's the danger of stereotypes. Notice, a recent study in America suggests that approximately 57% of male hairstylists are gay. Did you know that? So it is partially true that many hairstylists are gay in America, but that means that 43% of male hairstylists are not gay. So if you see a hairstylist, don't say, oh, he's gay. Stop it. That's prejudice. It's stereotyping. It's not true. All right, common stereotypes of Americans. Americans are fat. Is it true? Here's the truth. 39.6% of Americans are obese, very fat. 29.4% of Americans are overweight, a little fat. 38% of Americans look great. That's the truth. Number two, American women look like the movies. Is it true? The truth is 39.6% of Americans are obese, 29.4% are overweight, and 38% look great. Not all Americans look like that, all right? Here is true America. We have many thin and many overweight. Americans love money. Do all Americans love money? Truth. Businesses of America are very money motivated. Many Americans take jobs, however, that don't pay a lot of money because they don't care for money. Many Americans refuse to become manager because they want to have free time, and managers have to work longer. Did you know that? In America, the managers stay longer and the regular workers go home earlier than the manager. It's not like in Japan where the manager leaves first and then everyone leaves. In America, the manager leaves last. 4, Americans love new things. The truth, many American businessmen buy a new car every 2 years. However, many Americans drive their cars for 300 kilometers or more. Okay, this is really usual in America. Many people go to America and they say, what is that? That's not a car. And we have lots of old cars in America. Another stereotype, Americans are very bold and strong in their personality. Is that true? The truth, psychologists say that 40% of Americans are shy people. Do you believe it? It's true. I know that it's true. I see it. I grew up with it. Many, many shy people in America. Many people believe that Americans speak their opinion very clearly and directly. But the truth, there are many careful rules you must follow if you want to speak your opinion directly to Americans. Many Asians speak too freely to Americans and upset them. Why do you wear earrings? I would never wear earrings. You look like a girl. Okay, that would make an American very angry. Okay, people think that most Americans love guns. There are 328,600,000 Americans, and about 380 million guns in America. Wow. But only 1/3 of American adults own guns. The other 2/3 have no guns. Most Americans don't want a gun. I get angry when people stereotype Americans. But the police found that one man had 5,000 guns. Wow. Now, let's talk about stereotypes. Why do we stereotype? It's important to understand ourselves so we can protect against the dangers of stereotypes, so we won't hurt other people in a global society. 1, our brain likes to categorize. Categorize means to put into groups. Okay? We like to group people. We like to say good, bad, Mexican, white, black. It makes us feel good. It makes us understand the world. If we can say people are in groups, we feel we're in control. We know how people will act. It's not true, but we like to do that. Number two, we search for easy ways to make decisions. Okay, if I can say you're whites and whites act like this, you're black, blacks act like this, then I can make easy decisions. But those decisions are not good decisions based on stereotype and prejudice. They're bad decisions. Number three, negative stereotypes and prejudice make us feel better about ourselves. If I think, if I'm white and I think that Asians are lazy, then that makes me feel better. Those Asians are lazy. Okay, when I say that, I feel, us whites are better. So negative stereotypes make us feel better about ourselves. And four, another reason we stereotype, we learn stereotypes from parents, family, and friends. That's the most usual way that we learn them. Just a minute, let me move this. Okay. Here's a joke someone might tell you. What do you call someone who speaks two languages? Do you know that word in English? Bilingual. What do you call someone who speaks only one language? An American. Okay, this is a stereotype that Americans don't learn foreign languages. The truth is, I speak English, and if I go to Europe, there are so many people that speak English in Europe. I don't have to learn their language. I can just go to Europe and speak English. I go in any big city in the world and I can speak English. So it's hard for Americans to want to speak foreign languages because it's so easy just to speak English. But there are many Americans who are quite good at foreign languages. So this is a stereotype. And parents and friends can teach you this kind of joke and this kind of stereotype. Now, reason number five why we stereotype is media, and especially internet hate website. Media are terrible. The media will tell you we're searching for the truth. And many times they're not searching for truth. They feel that their opinion is so important that they can twist and change a story and make someone look bad. Now, you may like Donald Trump and you may hate Donald Trump. Whatever you think of him, the media twists and changes stories about him so badly that it's just awful. And it's just a prejudice against a conservative person. Here's an example. Mr. Brown, by the way, this is a story I'm going to tell you. A student who read a prejudice story on the internet, and he was a Chinese person, a really nice guy, and he came to me after class and he told me this story. He said, Mr. Brown, I actually learned that Jewish people control America. And I said, that's not true. And he said, yes, I read it on the internet. All banks of America are owned by Jewish people. And that's why America supports Israel. Well, it's a lie. Um, Many Americans are prejudiced against Jews. Um, I think that one of the biggest reasons America supports Israel is that the largest number of Jewish people living in the world live in America. There's more Jewish people living in America than Israel. And it's natural that we should support Israel because of that. Secondly, America is not mostly Christian now, but if you ask Americans, what is your religion? 82% will say I'm Christian. That's because they don't know what to say. So they just say, I'm Christian. But because there are actually a lot of Christians, a lot of real Christians in America, and the Christians tend to read the Bible, and the Bible says we should support Israel. And so there's a tradition in America of supporting Israel because of the Christian teaching. So we have a lot of Jewish people living in America, and we have Christian teaching that we should support Israel. And those are two good reasons that we do support Israel. Another reason is because Israel is our contact in the Middle East. There are many countries in the Middle East that we don't trust. We do trust Israel, and so we support them in the Middle East. So there are many reasons why America supports Israel and Jewish people. And the idea that all the banks are owned by Jewish people and they control America, that's a lie. And you should be careful when you read websites that speak badly about groups of people. Don't believe it. Don't listen to them. Maybe next week I'm going to talk more about prejudice. Maybe I'll have time to talk about reverse prejudice. That's a different kind of prejudice. But for today, okay, let's continue. Now, reason 6 that people stereotype is personal experience. Now, this is tough. This is really hard. Please listen. Notice there are 3 types of experiences for personal experience. One-time experience. One-time experience is when someone treats you badly, they hurt you, and maybe they're from a different race or a different culture. And so you think, look, he or she is from that race, that culture, and you develop a stereotype or a prejudice from one-time experience. Now, sometimes that experience will repeat. Someone from another culture or race may hurt you several times. And then you think, wow, I was right. They really are that way. And then you get a really strong prejudice. Remember that it is never true that all people of one race or culture act in a certain way. Even if you have a repeated experience, protect yourself from prejudice. Now, the third one is large group experience. And that's when you see a large group and you see some people from that large group acting in a certain way. For example, if there's 100 people from one country, and let's say there are 5 or 10 men, and they're speaking really badly to the women. And out of 100, you only see 10 speaking badly to the women. But you see that large group, and in your mind, it's the bad men who are you're focused on. And so you see the large group and you only see the bad experiences. And so you start thinking all American men are very bad to women. Okay. So be careful, even with a large group, you can focus on the negative and you can see something if you want to see it. Here's another one. You might see many Americans speak their ideas strongly in meetings or to friends. But would you lie? Americans say this. Americans were asked this question. Would you lie to make your friend happy? Or would you tell him the truth if it made him cry? Now, Americans answers, 26% of Americans would lie to make their friend happy. 74% would tell the truth. Let's go back. You see, Americans do speak their ideas strongly compared to some cultures. And we will speak our mind clearly often. But here we see that 26% of Americans would not speak strongly if they disagreed with their friend. 26% would lie to their friend. Now, 74% would tell the truth. I often ask my students, and usually a larger percent of Asians would lie. Okay. A large percent of Chinese and Japanese say we would lie. And so Americans do perhaps tell the truth more strongly, but many Americans would lie. And so you have to be careful about stereotype. All right, now there are three ways that we can deal with stereotype and prejudice. Number one, recognize the complexity of culture. There are cultures, let's say this is American culture, and in American culture, we have high school culture, college culture, junior high culture. We have business culture. We have sports culture. We have many cultures. Now, those cultures overlap. And there are so many cultures and cultures and cultures. We call them subcultures. So many groups in America, so many groups in Japan. Companies have a culture. When there's a big problem in a company, they often say it is a problem of the the culture of the company. And so that's one problem, is recognizing that there are many small groups within a group, and we have to recognize how complex each culture is. To recognize that people are individuals. Every person deserves to be treated fairly and honestly, and treat people kindly as individuals, not just as one group. Three, recognize that you have stereotypes and prejudice. Yes, everyone in the world has prejudice. Okay, um, let's look at this. Number one, recognize the complexity of culture. Each country has many small circles of culture: business culture, school culture, sports culture. Your family has a culture. Your gym has a culture. Your church, club, part-time job is a cultural group. Number two, recognize people are individuals. Wait until you know someone before you decide if they are a good person or not. We Japanese always do this. Those Americans always do that. It's dangerous. It's not true. Three, recognize that you have stereotypes and prejudice. The most dangerous person is the person who says, I have no prejudice. Everyone is prejudiced in some way. If you see that you have some prejudice, you can help control your mind. But if you say, no, I'm not prejudiced, you can't see your prejudice and you can't control it. I've often heard people say, I'm not prejudiced. It's just the truth. Those people really are like that. And this is the kind of statement which is very dangerous. All right. I'm through lecturing today. Now, I have only one homework for you today. I've got a handout. Let me show it to you. Here's my handout. The name of the handout is Prejudice Practice. Okay? Case Study in Prejudice, the Johnson's Family Garage Sale. I want you to read this story about the Johnsons. They had an experience with a group of people, and they had to decide how they're going to act. Did they become prejudiced? After you read the story, decide, did the Johnsons become prejudiced? Yes, very prejudiced. Yes, just a little prejudiced. No, not prejudiced. And you have to choose one. If you think it's yes, click it, put an X. If you think no, click it, put an X. Just choose one, okay? Now, after that, another question based on this story. If the Johnsons have another garage sale, what should they do? You choose one of these, okay? Now, if you don't like A, B, C, D, then you click X and you write your own idea. I think no, okay? But choose one of these. All right. Now, question 3. What if the same problem happens again? And I want you to write your idea. What if the same problem happens again? I have this paper here. This is a PDF file, but I will also put this on the internet as a Microsoft Word, which is a docx file. So you can choose one or the other. If it's difficult for you to write either, just put, you can use any piece of paper, just put question 1 and put your answer. Question 2, put your answer. Question 3, and just write your answer. You can just write it on a piece of paper and then take a picture of it or in some way send it to me. Any way that you send it to me, if you can, try to send it by Google Classroom. That will help me. Okay, that's our homework for today. Please send this homework to me by Monday, 5 o'clock p.m., Monday, May 25th. That's 5 o'clock, Monday, May 25th is the deadline to send this homework, which is Unit 2, Prejudice Practice. Okay, we're through today, and I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something about prejudice. Thank you.